The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Faster Mike, good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Manx Radio. The Chief Minister's here. Alfred Cannan, MHK, is on. Of course, Mr. Cannan was previously Treasury Minister and first elected for the constituency of Michael in 2011, so 13 years on. If you want to speak to the Chief Minister, then call 66 13 68, text or email or WhatsApp. Text and WhatsApps are 166 177, email studio@manxradio.com. Faster Mike, good afternoon.
Faster Mike, good afternoon, Andy.
Good to first things first. This is from Leslie, who says, I heard today on Manx Radio the Treasury is owed more than £18 million in outstanding income tax payments. How has that happened?
I don't know. I mean, there's always some lag of tax. I think that was over a 2-year period, three-year period. And
is that a lot? Is that a lot of money in the grand scheme of things?
Well, considering we have 1.2 billion of revenue coming in combined into the government, and 250 million or so of income tax. It's an important amount, right? I mean, it is an important amount, and I'm sure that everybody is making best efforts to recover that. I haven't got the exact details of how that is made up. I think that came out of a written question, didn't it, from one of our MHKs?
I think so as well.
And people will be making best efforts. It is very important that we absolutely get every penny that is legitimately owed to the government, and I'm sure best efforts will be being made now in the Treasury to get that. But I just do need to put that into context in terms of a total 1.2 billion, and in terms of that income tax figure, it'd be about 250 or so million pounds that will be coming in that particular area. And
returns are due in 2nd of October, isn't it? For
of course. Please, everybody, if you haven't done your income tax return, then you need to do so to avoid getting a letter in the post.
Okay, lots of questions about wind and Kroger. Can the Chief Minister, this is Catherine, advise why the government is dragging its feet regarding development of the Kroger gas field, which could be worth £2.8 billion to the Isle of Man? I understand government advisors have confirmed over a year ago that Kroger's approach to drilling the appraisal well first is correct. Catherine says, I can only conclude DOI is deliberately blocking the development, as 2 different ministers have now overseen this request to vary the licence and nothing has happened. How can something so important, which has just a 50-50 chance of success, not be given priority and focus?
So these things are have a lot of regulation attached to them, as you might expect. Everybody has to make sure that the plans that are in place meet all the relevant standards. There needs to be the right regulation in place, and of course in this particular case there needs to be the right agreements, both between the government but also between Kroger and Ørsted, who are also seeking to develop a wind farm in and around the location of the potential drilling for the gas. Those negotiations are ongoing. They will take years, some years in any case, if it gets the green light, to be able to both drill an appraisal well and also develop any future gas wells. But what I can tell you is that both with Ørsted and with Kroger, proper negotiations are being undertaken, and of course, we can clearly see how the Ørsted roadmap goes. I think that's an easier case to understand, but I'm pretty confident that we will know in the next month or two whether or not the proposals for the appraisal well are to be approved by government or not.
Okay, and a note in from, this is Jay, who just says, I'm sure the Chief Minister's aware, energy companies pay the UK Crown Estate hundreds of millions of pounds a year for the same pre-construction rights to areas in UK waters that Ørsted have in Isle of Man waters. For example, BP are currently paying the UK Crown Estate £233 million per year for each of their two sites, just over the 12-mile limit. So that's £462 million per year total. The equivalent fee payable for Ørsted will be equivalent to £215 million per year. The Chief Minister ought to have included this in his reply to Julie Edge. But how much is Ørsted paying the DOI for their pre-construction seabed lease, and why isn't the figure already public information?
Because it is quite a complex issue, and some of these projected revenue estimates will still need to be agreed. The complication, I think, and in terms of why this is not as straightforward as it is in the UK, is that the UK have a mechanism called CFD rounds, and the CFD round effectively guarantees a strike price which the government underwrites, so that in the whatever circumstances that wind farm will give those investors and those who are operating the wind farm a set return, which will mean effectively that they do not lose money. And the government do this by having set up a separate company to underwrite what they call these CFD rounds.
Contract for difference.
Correct. So we are not yet included in that. So one of the issues that needs to be resolved with Ørsted is actually its route to market, and how that is enabled, particularly into the UK grid, because it's clear it's far too big a development just for the Isle of Man. There is, of course, now a developing proposal to try and channel some of that electricity and land it on the island, but primarily the size and scale of that proposal means that electricity needs to be exported externally. So in amongst all the planning, one has to understand whether we're going to be how that electricity is landed competitively, and Ørsted are going to want to know clearly that the wind farm is going to run profitably for them. So that is the reason why primarily all these facts and figures around what is being produced in UK waters cannot be transferred in the immediacy to the planning for Ørsted, but we do know and can say with some confidence that if we can get this licensed and get it up and running and get it connected, we will of course have I believe a reasonably decent revenue stream into the public finances, which of course can then go and support some of our hard-pressed services.
Because everybody hears the figures from Kroger, the figures they're quoting, the figures that, as you say, may be transposed from UK equivalents. Do you think you could give any sort of ballpark figures as to how much we're going to be making? Because obviously people want to know whether we're going to be in pocket or not for this, and how much it's going to be contributing to the exchequer. And that may also help for people to buy in more to this concept of having the huge wind farm off the west coast.
So absolutely. I mean, the bottom line here is that, as national infrastructure develops both here and in the United Kingdom, but particularly in the United Kingdom as they push ahead with the sourcing of electricity from renewables, then we have good opportunity to be part of that future story and to enable, I hope, some of that infrastructure investment to take place in Manx waters. This is long-term investments, though. It's not going to be developed in the next 12 months. It's not going to be developed in the next 12 months. And, in many areas, this still needs a thought process and a discussion process to take place. And primarily, Andy, it is about access to market and routes to market. And how do you enable that from an island that has its own territorial seas, its own regulation, its own legislation, versus obviously a much, much bigger state across the British Isles, where, yes, the same issues apply, but they are servicing a much greater population, and the business cases are much easier to identify.
Are you confident that our public servants, our civil service, can handle negotiations properly and get the contracts together?
So, it's important that the right people are in place with the right advice. Clearly, you need proper professional advice in these circumstances to get the right contracts in place to undertake the negotiations, and also a willingness to and a drive to see things succeed. And absolutely, the government is committed to following all these pathways as properly and professionally as possible, and to overcoming any obstacles that are presented. And some of those obstacles are absolutely at political level, and maybe at political level if it comes to having to have negotiations with the UK over, for example, CFD rounds, or over potentially sharing legislation or extending legislation that is needed for drilling rigs or wind turbines to be erected. And actually, at the moment we are pursuing our own regulation when it comes to Ørsted and the Marine Infrastructure Management Act, which will fundamentally allow for the proposed project to continue and develop. But there's also a deficiency potentially around Crogga, and that would need to be overcome. And part of that consideration is, does that take place purely in the Isle of Man, or can we somehow work on a joint basis to share regulation with the United Kingdom, and particularly, given there is actually, it seems to me, greater regulation applied to clearly drilling for oil and gas, and that regulation primarily takes place through the North Sea Transition Authority. So this is not necessarily easy stuff to bring to fruition. We are working as hard as possible, working very closely with Ørsted, and those discussions with Crogga, I hope, will be concluded in the next couple of months.
Okay. Aside of the finance and the contracts and the legalities, as a Manxman, what do you think of the aesthetics of this huge wind farm off the west coast? I mean, how in your mind's eye, when you see this thing 1,000 feet high, how do you feel about that aesthetically?
Well, there's always lots of questions about aesthetics. The critical point, of course, in all this, Andy, is that we need electricity. Yeah. Future generations need electricity. The pathways have been set in many ways because of the international agenda, because of the Paris Agreement, because now of the drive of the new government and Ed Miliband's clear stated intentions to drive wind energy and offshore energy. In many ways, it's either get with the program or fall behind, and falling behind it potentially has significant risks. One, it carries economic risks because actually there are revenue opportunities being lost. There's electricity security risks. In other words, having that in our waters and being able to plug into it will give us additional security well into the future. And of course, this is about not just the here and now, but our children's long-term futures as well. And and we can see an evidence that this is also interconnected too with many of the issues that we have at the moment, and developing issues around climate and the change that it is bringing both to the way we live our lives, and of course the storms and the wetter weather, etc. as well. So there's a number of reasons why this goes beyond just aesthetics, and we really have to be very practical about what is needed as well.
All right, let's get to the phones then. And Charlie, hello Charlie, you're live with Chief Minister Alfred Cannan.
Good evening, Chief. Good afternoon, Chief Minister. We do know each other. We met at Solby and Andrea's dinners at the mill with your father.
Very good. Hello, Charlie.
Yeah. Right. First question, the promenade. What warranty have we got on the structure of the promenade?
in terms of the work that's been done, Charlie,
Yes.
over the last few years? Well, there is obviously
Yes.
there is a contract in place. There was a contract in place during the time that work was undertaken. My understanding was that following completion of that contract, there was a period of time available for redress in terms of identifying issues or incomplete work, and that was utilised during that period. But as far as I know, as it currently stands, then that whole contractual piece around the development of the promenade now has come to a close.
So the Manx taxpayers paid 27 million for the promenade. Now we're going to have to pay again to repair.
Well, I mean, I think anything will need repair and development. Obviously, there is cabling needed. I think at the moment there is obviously a proposal and development going on around a sea wall. But, whatever infrastructure is put in place, the key point is planned as effectively as possible. But there may well be any reason why at some point parts of the promenade may be dug up. Is there a particular issue that you've identified?
At the Rundle at the Sefton, for about a month they've had yellow barriers on the pavement to stop people using the crossway because it was breaking up somewhat, I think. On Tuesday, there was utter bedlam on the promenade, queues from the sea terminal to Sefton and queues from Queen's Promenade to the Sefton, because the paving, the grey and black paving, was getting lifted out. I thought it was going to get repaired, but it looks like they've gone against the original planning application, because instead of putting the paving back, they put black tarmac on. I know it's a quicker and cheaper job.
Charlie, I'll be honest, I'd have to look at that specific case.
The job looked nice, but it's completely different to the other side of the Rundle now.
Charlie, I'd have to look at the roads and infrastructure business case that would have been put forward for that, and I'm happy to go away and have a look at that, Charlie, for you.
Okay. Now, the other point I want to make, I went through the sea terminal at Liverpool and Easter, being nosy, banksman, retired build. I went in to have a look. Nice plush gents toilets, but when you use the throne, I won't go into details on that, you can actually see people walking past the doorway. There's such a gap between the door and the passageway. Are they going to do a snagging list? I know it's going to be a year before we have the full costing to that. Well, and then the flooring is all scoured with a knife because they've been cutting vinyl on top of vinyl. That's going to crack and break up.
Okay, well, a wider point as well is the sea terminal in Liverpool as a whole, Chief Minister. Cost and cost and benefit to the Isle of Man. So we're saying it's about a year before we know the full cost. Yeah,
because I mean there are the way these contracts work. There are various claims and reclaims that are made in terms of the money that is being paid across. The bottom line, I mean, generally, yes, there is snagging. Yes, there's plenty of opportunity for issues to be raised and to be rectified where they can be demonstrated that they have not been completed to standard. Charlie, I've been in, the sea terminal. I've been in the main area. I've been to the cafe. I think that this will prove to be a long-term asset. There's a lot of other development taking place in and around the sort of half a mile around the sea terminal, and eventually, once we've overcome some of these snagging problems, I think that will become a significant asset for the island. It definitely gives us a strong presence in and around the Liverpool area, and I think I met with Liam Robinson for example at the Labour Party conference. We discussed the relationship with the Isle of Man, the opportunities that existed within that northwest region and the Liverpool region to enhance and develop tourism. And we're looking to try and develop that further between Liverpool City Council and indeed the Visit Agency. And actually a lot of these discussions and the value that we are able to bring both at political and sort of operational level is the fact that talking to mayors and authorities in the Northwest and looking at how to build that visitor base, Liverpool's sea terminal, the investment that has taken place does provide us a real platform to be able to launch those discussions.
Okay.
Yes,
Final word, Charlie.
Well, we paid a lot of money to have the dockside at Liverpool reinforced. I mentioned on the radio some time ago that the boat was built for Liverpool, and I was told it wasn't. Well, I see now the boat is going to Liverpool next month.
Yeah, the boat is scheduled to start operations and using Liverpool throughout the winter. So it is capable of using the Liverpool dock. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Charlie, we appreciate that. I have to get on because there are more people queued up behind you, including Robert. Hello, Robert. You're live with Alfred Cannan, MHK.
Hello, Mr. Alfred Cannan. I respect you as a politician if I could just tasting the coffee at the moment and just smelling the coffee and I could just pass comment. I think you're doing an okay job at the moment, so I respect you on that. My question would be, what do you think about another political party coming into party politics in terms of Tynwald? I'm thinking of the Mannin party or something along those lines. What do you think about party politics in general, and do you think there's a place for it within Tynwald in our capacity?
Okay, party politics, Chief Minister.
Do I think there's a place for it? I mean, in many ways, it depends on the strength of any manifesto that would be put forward, and I guess very much, obviously, this is a broad island view that actually people want to specifically understand what a government is going to do before they elect the individuals. I mean, we work on a consensus basis. Any democracy, any system that you have is not perfect, and even if you do put a political party in, as we can see, they can make lots of promises and then that's not necessarily a guarantee to deliver things.
Is there anything that's ever appealed to you, party politics on the Isle of Man?
I think if the fundamental case for change is so strong and a party can go and demonstrate that and demonstrate what they are going to do to deliver that and seek public support and that mandate, then yes, that there is a case, but you have to, of course, be careful about some of the risks that will come with that. But that's very much that's an issue for the voters.
Okay.
And there are many strengths still in the Manx political system. There are lots of weaknesses. And it is a legitimate, what I would say to Robert and to everybody else, it's absolutely a legitimate conversation for the island and for everybody to determine whether or not the political system is appropriate and properly representing their views, and therefore whether or not there should be a case for change.
Okay. How was the Labour Party conference?
Well, I mean, it's... So this is going into my 9th year now, and over the last 8 years I've done multiple conferences, obviously with Howard Quayle on a number of times, and then I've been pursuing that same route as the Chief Minister. But it is almost the start of a new cycle. We've got almost a complete change in personnel in many respects, and that's going to be a lot of work needed to build those relationships. And
what sort of when you go there, is there anything you expect to do? Any particular contacts you expect to make? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're building. I'd like to see as many senior members of the Labour Party as possible. There is also an argument to create that presence. You also get the opportunity to meet, as I said, regional mayors, for example, and organisations that are influential in and around both the Northwest, so for example the Northern Powerhouse, but also people who are representing and have sort of legitimate interests in the performance of the Isle of Man, for example, the City UK. So Yes, there is a lot of meetings that are taking place. They are about influencing, understanding, and trying to put ourselves in a position so that if we need to make formal representations, and those formal representations are political, people hopefully will know and understand who we are and who is making those representations and on what basis. And of course, there's also an economic development opportunity, but you tend to find that so trying to build relationships with, for example, the Northern Powerhouse, the City, Liverpool Council, and organisations like the City UK.
Can we expect to see any members of the Labour government invited to the Isle of Man, or indeed people from Liverpool or Manchester?
Well, very much so. There are opportunities to do that. We will, I'm sure, see the Lord Chancellor and the appropriate minister in the Ministry of Justice over here visiting the island within the next 6 to 12 months, I would have thought. And there will be opportunities for us to do that also at Tynwald. And, in fact, it's not uncommon to see MPs from all parties being represented during our National Day celebrations. But yes, we will see MPs from the Labour Party on the island, I've no doubt.
OK, it's 29 minutes before 1, live with the Chief Minister on Mannin Line.
Wedding planners and photographers looking for a truly unique backdrop for wedding photography? Then consider the historic Queen's Pier in Ramsey for a stunning coastal backdrop for truly memorable photographs. It offers a fantastic location to photographers in exchange for an affordable donation. Visit the Queen's Pier Restoration on Facebook, or to discuss photo opportunities, call Graham on 355 104. That's 355 104. This audio has been kindly sponsored by Paul Carey & Sons.
Hi, James from Tracy Bell here. Thanks to Tracy Bell, natural-looking dentures are as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Arrange your free consultation with our expert team. 2. We'll then take a digital scan of your teeth to create a perfect denture. 3. Have your new denture custom fitted for great-looking teeth, indistinguishable from the real thing. Comfortable, secure, smart fit dentures only from Tracy Bell. Call 613323 now for your consultation. Tracy Bell, helping you to be better.
Lost in Music is coming to Villa Marina. The original disco show will take you on an electrifying journey through the sensational 70s, featuring a world-class band and dazzling vocals that will transport you straight to the heart of disco fever. Get ready to relive timeless hits from icons like Donna Summer, Gloria Gaynor, Earth, Wind and Fire, Sister Sledge and Chic, losing yourself in the music and leaving your worries behind. Don't miss out on the feel-good show of the year coming to Villa Marina on Saturday the 5th of October. Book online at villagaiety.com, call 600 555 or in person at the Villa Marina or the Welcome Centre.
Coming up, we have another winning weekend here on Manx Radio. And this time, we're giving you the chance to win £200 to spend at 1886 Bar and Cocktail Lounge, courtesy of Tell Skips. All you have to do is listen out for the winning question, which we'll ask on air right across the weekend. And once you've heard it, text your answer to 166 177. So whether you're tackling a major construction project or just doing a bit of home decluttering, Tells is the go-to company for skips for both commercial and domestic use. Make this your winning weekend with Tell Skips and your nation station, Manx Radio.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Chief Minister's on Mannin Line today. If you want to get in touch, text, email, call and WhatsApp. This is from Peter, who just says, Chief Minister, the all-island rate, has the subject gone? Has it been swept under the carpet? What's the future for the all-island rate?
Well, there's always a discussion to be had around local funding, and the rates issue is in the background. I would say that this government has focused very much on a multitude of significant issues over the last 3 years that have meant that our core focus must have been around the economy, that developing and driving the economy forward, sorting out our connectivity issues, dealing with the health issues and build-up that happened over the COVID period, and tackling a number of other issues, including housing, as priorities. So the rates issue has not gone away. It is still there to be tackled. I expect some work that may lead to rates reform is likely to be done in the next 12 months. I've made commitments around £10 million worth of government efficiency, and we also need to set forward how government can operate in a more streamlined and efficient manner, and that may also then lead to further discussions about the makeup of the rate system across the island. But there is no, I need to be clear, Andy, there are no plans at the moment for any consideration of all island rates.
Okay, this is from Teresa, who just said, and you alluded to health just there, you described the Manx Care's overspend as completely unsustainable. You have a DHSC minister and political members. Why weren't they scrutinising this? And the second point is, what's your top priority now for Manx Care?
Well, first and foremost, Manx Care must operate within its given budget, and there has to be some financial control applied to our health system. The arguments about whether it is underfunded are not. That they need to be looked at in the medium to longer term. But whatever the case, the department, the healthcare system, must operate to the budgets it is given. It was given an extra £43 million in last year's budget, and part of that revenue call went directly, or went in greater scale, to the taxpayers, who were asked to pay an extra 10%. Now, you know, and we're looking at a £16 million overspend, which must come down, because otherwise, you know, without financial control, you have to question how much money, how much money you give the health system, whether it will ever be able to run within a set budget. It is the big question of our age, Andy. It is an absolute priority for me and the Council of Ministers right at this precise moment. Not only do we have to get it under financial control, and get it under financial control very, very quickly, and the operational plans that need to go with that, but we also do need to understand the long-term funding question. But you can only really, I believe, go to the public and talk about long-term funding when you can clearly demonstrate that the organisation can operate within a given budget. So it needs to get back into order. That needs to happen very quickly, and it is a top priority for us all. Yeah. That healthcare operates within its budget, is clear about its productivity and efficiencies, and that's throughout that organisation. But that is a priority for the Council Minister. It's going to be a priority for Manx Care. You can't just turn these things around without proper engagement across the organisation. But whatever level people are at in Manx Care, and of course we're talking to the board, we're talking to the DHSC. The Minister is Treasury, and the DHSC Minister are actively discussing how to improve the financial strategic oversight. But the organisation itself must find ways to deliver the efficiencies and the operational effectiveness to operate within budget.
I think the public are somewhat confused by the fact that you have DHSC overseeing this. So where does the flow of funds go? Does the flow of funds go from Treasury straight to Manx Care or via DHSC? So
Manx Care are allocated a budget, and that it is for Manx Care to spend that budget appropriately. So Manx Care will put together their operational plans. They will take them to DHSC, and DHSC will represent those to the Treasury. But they go to Manx Care. It is for Manx Care to deliver the operational services that are described in the mandate that they are given to run. But in any of this, irrespective of the demands of the service levels, Manx Care must operate within its budget, and we must have financial control, and we must then pick up the discussion properly and in a proper manner as to what additional funding is needed and how that has to be funded. And Andy, I just want to really take this point, because this really does underpin a lot of what we are doing in terms of our island plan and to trying to drive the island forward, because the demographics, the poor birth rates, just are leading to more and more pressure growing on services, but particularly on our health service. And if we just let things just stand still, you would have more and more people needing health care and less of a working population to provide the real core taxation base needed to provide the money for these public services.
Okay.
So this leads on to why we need to grow the working population. It leads on to our policies that we've put in place around the families, which includes increasing child benefit rates, which includes giving extra years early care support for young families. It means quality assuring our schools. It means driving forward programs to try and retain young people on our island, and it also means properly controlled and well-defined immigration policies as well, because if we don't redress that balance in the short to medium term, the pressures will only grow more and more, and therefore the call on funding is and that pressure is going to continually increase.
Okay.
So it is very much at the heart of the debate, and it is very much the issue of the day, and not just for the Isle of Man, Andy. This is the issue of the day for the United Kingdom and for many other countries across the world.
Okay, we got a message in from Alice while you were mentioning all this, just to say then that You said the spending has got to be brought under control by Manx Care, and the question prompted by Alice is, well, what happens if it doesn't? Would you conclude that the Manx Care experiment has been a failure?
No, because as I said, I think that much of what was set out was right, and this was all about trying to deliver a best-in-class healthcare system. And Andy, the NHS, the healthcare system, has in many ways faced a huge number of challenges over the last decade, 15 years. When I first came into politics, and I think I've said this to you before, we had West Midlands healthcare in the island because simply, the quality of some of the delivery for people with critical conditions and operations, etc., was really proving to be just completely unacceptable. So let's not just think this has been a perfect system. Healthcare is complex. It is getting increasingly complex. Wes Streeting said the NHS was broken. I largely agree with him, but I actually think there are probably multiple reasons why he's made that claim, but a large part of that is because it cannot and doesn't seem to be able to spend within its means. And also, there are elements perhaps out with our control, which I do have empathy about, and that's, for example, drugs providers, particularly the cost of some of the drugs, the unforeseen emergencies that Manx Care has to deal with. But nevertheless, Andy, the organisation needs to find a way of saying to the Treasury and to the government and to Tynwald, this is what we need. We've budgeted on such a basis that either we've held in reserve effectively 20 or 30 million pounds to cover the unforeseen eventualities, and or you're asking us to do too much and these services cannot be delivered. And that is a straightforward choice, but we've also put in place the following policies, procedures, whatever, to increase productivity. There are a huge multitude of issues. A lot of those were drawn out in the Sir Jonathan Michael report. But of course, in dealing with all that, we also need an organisation that is agile enough, flexible enough to be able to make decisions and operational decisions and changes even to the report itself if parts of that aren't working and or it is just simply failing to be able to put in place the strategic financing and controls that are needed for it to operate within budget. And sorry, one final point. It is so serious for us. the UK, of course, 50% of the healthcare trusts and boards are operating in deficit. A lot of them are in special measures and having to have, very serious oversight and turnaround put in place. But unlike the UK, we can't go and borrow more and more money. We don't have that sort of access to bonds and financing. We don't have monetary policy control. We run on a very strict fiscal basis. As you know, a lot of the challenges have been around for a long, long time now in terms of our finances. And ever since the financial crisis in 2008, when that VAT element was taken down considerably, the island has had to go through considerable period of using its reserves. But you do get to a point where that business plan to move ourselves forward over the next 3 or 4 years, on top of what happened with COVID, needs absolute financial discipline in terms of the allocation of spend, and that applies to healthcare as it does to any other department across government. But of course, the significance and amount of healthcare spending, is such that when you get, an overspend like this, it's far more powerful than, say, £500,000 or £1 million in home affairs. So it needs control.
OK, Alfred Cannan, MHK, is with us on Mannin Line today. When we finish, by the way, it's our 60th anniversary, and we're going back to a classic edition of the Family Phone-In with Manx radio contributor John Quilliam discussing Manx bricks and Manx pronunciations. And by the way, on Monday, Sir Miles Walker will be paying tribute to John Quilliam when he gave the eulogy at John's funeral. It's our 60th anniversary. Look into the archive after Mannin Line today.
Check out the Groudle Glen Railway timetable for some great days out. Visit the Clifftop Tea Rooms and Sales Emporium, book a special steamed tea, and join our free family train spotting challenge. Hop on the line that goes uphill to the sea, the Groudle Glen Railway. For times, see ggr.org.uk or visit on Facebook.
The previous message was brought to you by QVH, the island's premier serviced offices and co-working space in the heart of Douglas. Call 639 940 for more information or visit qvhpremierofficespace.com.
Discover a fabulous range of watches, gifts and jewellery at Ramsey Art Gallery with top brand watches from Bulova, Citizen Eco Drive and Storm to Accurus, Seconda and Timex. Plus, all watch purchases come with free lifetime watch bracelet adjustment service. There's stunning gold and silver jewellery, gifts for all occasions, and of course a fabulous gallery of limited edition prints and original artworks. Find all this and more at Ramsey Art Gallery, Jewellers and Engravers, opposite Ramsey RNLI shop.
When I decided to get a motorised chair to help my wife, we went straight to Millie Chaps. Why? Because we were impressed by their superb range. And, of course, a comfortable chair is something you really need to try before you buy. We spent plenty of time to decide what was right for us, and the friendly expert staff at Millie Chaps couldn't be more helpful. I also discovered they have motorised beds too, so we're going to go back to Millie Chaps to give them a try. For motorised chairs and beds, go and see the range for yourself at Millie Chaps of Ramsey.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
And the Chief Minister is here now. Anne, hello Anne, you're live with Alfred Cannan, MHK.
Good afternoon, Chief Minister.
Hello Anne.
Hi Alf. I'd like to talk about cannabis and what a fantastic medication we now know it is for all ailments. It could actually save you a fortune on the DHSC. And the two-tier society that it's brought in with it, of those that can afford and those that can't afford. Now, the street cannabis, I believe, has actually had its place. It's filled the gap of those that can't afford the expense of the medical cannabis, which is pretty expensive, really. When everyone's put their little bit onto it and, it's been dispensed out. So...
OK, what's your question, Anne?
When will it be legal, lawful for us to grow our own?
OK. Legal and lawful to grow our own cannabis. Is it in the government's pipeline at all, regulatory pipeline?
Well, what I would say is that drugs policy generally is always something that is under discussion and under review. I expect us to be looking again at the overall drugs policy. as it stands at the moment, I recognise that cannabis is now being legalised for medicinal purposes. I accept that appears to be privately functioning and running. We on the island recognise that there is legitimacy in the medical application of cannabis, and we are continuing to work with companies who have expressed an interest in developing that. But that will be developed under highly secure premises and will be very highly regulated and legitimately supplied into.
What happened to the Peel proposal for the Cool Roundabout? They were going to do something quite large. We've
put in place the ability to regulate this. I understand, Andy, that some finalised discussions are still going on with interested parties. So again, I expect that to come out into the public as soon as people are ready to present their plans and tell us how they're going to go forward.
Okay, we've talked a lot today, Chief Minister. In fact, all we've talked about is money and bluntly the lack of it. I mean, time was years and years ago when the construction industry was roaring, when the power station was being built, Iris was being built, the new hospital. The Isle of Man was moving along. I checked the Moody's rating earlier on this week, and it looks very healthy. So, how do you read the mood of the nation of the Isle of Man? How do you read? Are people optimistic? Are they pessimistic? How do you feel? And you personally, how do you feel?
Well, first of all, Andy, I mean, let's be clear. I mean, and I'm not going to blame everything on, what's happened in the past, but we went through a very healthy period for the island where we had a very successful allocation of our sales tax of VAT, and that formula was based on GDP, and GDP of the island went through significant boom in the 90s and the 2000s, and that's great news. And then, of course, it was changed and put on a much more realistic footing, and that resulted in us having to really demonstrate clearly the amount of spend that was being generated by individuals and households. Bottom line is, we are where we are. The island actually, like everywhere else, has gone through significant periods of difficulty, and that goes right back from 2010, 2011 to 2016 as a phase, as a political phase where, it was significant austerity, lots of people leaving the island. I think 2016 to 2021, we recovered a lot of ground, and of course then went straight headlong into COVID, went straight long into the cost of living crisis, the Ukraine war, a very, very damaging employment tribunal. And the result of that is that we've had to do a lot of recovery work in a lot of areas, and a lot of positive advancements. We're focusing on security, the security of the island, and that's the physical security of the island, because we absolutely want everybody to know that you and your families will remain safe in a very challenging and growing threats in a number of areas. We are focusing very much on our economic security by properly understanding what the problems are and doing our very best to tackle them for everybody and provide the jobs and employment and growth opportunities for our nation, and of course we are tackling our key energy and environmental security as well, and that's very much the theme of the nation. And I would say to everybody, the next time you go away and look around and see what's happening everywhere else and you come back, I hope you're going to feel safe, secure and happy that this island, for all the challenges and difficulties that we are absolutely tackling, is still a great place to be and is making progress in a very, very challenging world.
Okay, Chief Minister, we appreciate it. Thanks for being with us today. Good to talk to you. Alfred Cannan, MHK, has been with us today. If you want to follow up, by all means, drop a note in, manninline@manxradio.com. Next Tuesday, Deborah Heather's here from Visit Isle of Man, along with Ranald Caldwell, talking about Destination First and our tourism industry on the Isle of Man. And the back end of October, the Chief Constable will be with us, Russ Foster. In the meantime, we're back to an open line on Monday. Thanks for being with us. Thanks to Chris Quirk on the phone. And have a great weekend.
WINT. 60 years serving you as the nation station. This is Manx Radio.
Throughout its 60 years, Manx Radio has been able to call upon the memories of a number of remarkable Manx men and women to explain places, names, which might be a mystery to many. John Quilliam was a name and a Manx voice well known to Manx Radio listeners. Here on a family phone-in, David Collister took calls from those anxious for answers.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, Mr. Quilliam.
Hello there.
Hello. We were talking to you in Castletown just before Christmas.
Oh, you did, yes.
About the bricks that were in the base and the foundations, rather, of the Fort Anne that had the 3 legs of man on. The very, very heavy bricks. Do you remember?
I do. Yes,
Did you ever find out where they came from?
You come from Portnahinshire, if I remember.
I'm from Portnahinshire, land of Spud
yes.
Yes.
And your husband is attached to the fire service, sir.
Yes.
Yes. Very nice.
Good memory, this fella.
I have, yes. I have a good picture. Now, these 3, I went up to the Fort Anne, and I didn't like to pinch a brick, because I don't do that sort of thing, but I did go round and have a look, and, strange enough, I couldn't find one. So I'm coming out someday for your brick with the 3 legs of man on.
Yes.
You've got one over there.
I have one here.
You have. Is it the same size as an ordinary brick, or are they bigger?
Very heavy.
Very heavy.
Very, very heavy bricks indeed.
Aye.
But it has the 3 legs of man printed on it.
I don't know if John knows a lot about brickworks, but bricks must have been made here for, 150 years or so now?
A long time. It was before peel brickworks.
Yes, oh sure, yeah.
Yes, but those brickworks out the north of the island, out at several places, and they made red bricks in the north of the island, and several houses are built with them. But I haven't got the history of this 3 legs of man one, which I must get.
And if anybody else has got any of these or can tell us about this 3 legs of man brick, we'd be glad to have a call on 24144 this morning, if anyone can really tell us where they came from. But thank you very much for calling us in on that one.
Yes.
And John will investigate it with you.
Yeah, ta-ra then.
You can have ours any time.
Ta-ra.
Okay, thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Very interesting programme.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Bye-bye now.
Right, bye. Well, we continue with the calls. That was, I'll just get rid of line 1 on my switchboard and take up now line 2. Hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
I'd like to know what Tholobel means in Manx. Tholobel.
Tholobel.
Yes.
Tholobel. Now, Thallow, Thalloo, means land. The land, the earth, the land that you're standing on. Thallow, and Bell is a surname, and it is Bell's land. Thallow, Bell. Bell's land.
Bell's land.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
A portion of my land, which the Highway Board has altered slightly, is called Thallow Quilliam. That is Quilliam's land.
Part of island life for 60 years. This is your Manx Radio.